So maybe you're watching this and it's too early, meaning you haven't hit rock bottom yet. Or maybe you're watching this and it's too late, meaning you've already kind of on your way. Or maybe you're watching this right at the exact time that you are at a crossroads. And if you are, keep watching. Because today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna discuss the 3 steps that I took to get out of one of the biggest ruts that I was in my life. It's always darkest before the dawn. It's always worse before it gets better. So if you're at a point where you're so low and you know something, whatever that may be, something needs to change, then at least I can kind of relate to how you're feeling. For me, I was at a point where I devoted my entire pre-professional life, so ever since I was in 9th grade, all the way through college, and so for 8 full years of my developing years where I had the opportunity to explore and try new things, I devoted myself entirely to one career choice, and that was going to be a music teacher. And I got my first job, and I realized something terrible. I hated it. Now, I didn't necessarily hate teaching music. I actually still love teaching music, but I hated that job. That was a really, really low, terrible point in my life. So much so where I never wanted to go to sleep, because that means I would be that much sooner to starting the next terrible day. What that also meant was I stayed up way too late. I was doing anything and everything I can to get immediate satisfaction, immediate gratification, and that included everything from doing none of the responsible things that I needed to do for life or for the job for that matter, and all the fun things. So hanging out as much as I can, eating whatever I wanted, as crappy of food as I wanted. And going down this path, I fell into even more issues, deciding to step away from teaching and to, take on entrepreneurship, take on digital marketing for that matter. I found myself in a position where many people that are change their careers find themselves in a very poor financial position. Not only did I hit rock bottom in one career, but then I hit rock bottom financially. So there was a point where I maxed out every single credit card. I had quite a bit of debt, and since everything was maxed out, I clearly had nothing in my savings or my checking. And I went to go pick up the pizza from my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and we're gonna have some pizza, and it came to $17, and I realized I can't pay for that. I didn't have $17 to my name. I actually had a lot of negative dollars to my name, but I didn't have $17. So I literally, with asking her to borrow her card and her money, I broke down hysterically crying and hyperventilating, rethinking everything, every decision up to that point. So I knew something had to change. I had no career direction, I had no money, and I knew that if I kept going down this road, it was only going to get worse. So as promised, I'm going to walk you through the 3 steps that kind of occurred and that I believe you can replicate to get yourself out of a rut that you may be facing. The first thing that happened was I woke up. I woke up and I realized that this was a problem, because before then I was really just daydreaming through life. I was just pushing away and not really even remotely thinking about what the consequences could be or whatever, or being proactive for that matter. So I finally woke up, and this was unfortunately a terrible way to wake up and realize that there was a problem, but I was so overworked, underslept, and emotionally drained that I was driving home it was in the afternoon after school, after work, and I fell asleep at the wheel. And I got in a car crash, and it was a really bad one. Thank God everybody was okay. But it was on a freeway, and I fell asleep, and I slammed into the person in front of me, and the car flipped over. And when I say time dilated, I mean time dilated. Everything was slow motion for real. And that was the point where I knew, okay, something drastic has to change. This didn't happen fast. This was a slow process. It was a very organic process, but slowly the patterns in my life, and I really can't even say they were routines, but the patterns slowly started to dwindle of staying out super late, partying with my friends, not being aware and not being focused on my path in life and just kind of pushing everything away. Those patterns started to pretty much over time diminish almost to nothing. So the first question I have for you is, where are you on this journey? Have you yet even woken up? Have you yet realized that the rut you're in is a rut itself? Is it a serious enough problem that you've made it this far in the video? And if it has, and if it is, leave a comment and let me know when you woke up and maybe some of the circumstances around that wake up process. Second thing that happened to get me out of this rut was that I emotionally cleaned up. So from the years of 2011 to the middle of 2012, so I had 18 months of realizing that, okay, I had no job because I got let go from my music teaching job. I had now no direction because that was my entire identity for the last 8-10 years at that point of my life. I was a music teacher, I was a musician, and now what do? I don't have any money, so do I do the cheapest option to change careers and go into like audio engineering or something? Do I change careers entirely? What do I want to do? And ultimately, I just felt sorry for myself. It was a negative, gray time in my life, and I emotionally cleaned up, and this is how it happened. My old professor, who I became fairly good friends with from my undergrad, we were hanging out one night, and he was just kind of asking, what's up, what are you doing? And I was just trying to, tell him like, I don't know, I think about my master's, I don't really know what to do, and I don't know where to go, and he's listening to me like whine and moan, and he said something to me, and he said, why don't you just go study with Olivier in Belgium? About a year before, or 2 years before, this guy David was a Belgian native, and he brought in one of his brass bands that he knew from his old trumpet professor. It was the most incredible concert I ever listened to. It was awesome. I got to meet the euphonium player. I played euphonium, and I was like, oh, okay, and like the conversation then, when they first came, kind of came up a little bit like, oh, you should come study in Belgium maybe you can get accepted to the Royal Liège Conservatory. And the limiting beliefs that I had that just completely came over me like a warm blanket was, I'll never forget. That's nice of you to say, but I'm never, ever good enough to do that. When David said that, he gave me everything I needed to emotionally clean up. What he did was he showed me that I am much better of a performer than I think I am. What that did for me was that opened everything, because that showed me all of my limiting beliefs I had. I never thought I can go to Belgium. But if this guy who I looked up to and who I thought was a great musician and a great conductor, if he thinks that I can do it, then damn, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I so hard on myself and so narrow-minded, and there's an entire world out there? So all of a sudden, with just in 7 seconds of a comment, my entire world changed, and emotionally, I threw out all of these old beliefs, all of this emotional baggage. And I didn't really have the tactics or the strategy of how I was going to do it, but I knew that there was a lot more to me that I had available than just doing one thing. So finally, the last thing that happened, or the last step to this process for me, was that I drowned myself in uncertainty and change. Ultimately, I took David's comment very seriously, and I said, you know what the hell? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go study in Europe because, hey, this degree may very possibly work for my master's as a teacher. Maybe I can become that much better of a performer. Maybe I can open up my own studio. There's a million different things I can do with this. I can hope maybe one day go on to be a college professor with this, which I couldn't before. So all these avenues started opening. I said, this is it, and I, practiced my butt off. I made some recordings, and I auditioned ultimately, and I got accepted. This embarked a journey for me that was completely life-changing, and what is probably 90% of the reason that I'm sitting at this desk talking to you today. While I was in Belgium, as I mentioned, I completely had an entire adventure of change, uncertainty, uncomfortable, couldn't even speak French, the French part of Belgium. All of these things and all these what seemed to be obstacles. I had to leave my girlfriend, and I was dating her for 4 or 5 years at that point. I mean, this was a serious jump. It was incredible. Through this process of breaking down my surroundings, of breaking down my thought processes of who I am as a person, what's capable, and going and being so outside my comfort zone, what that did was that ultimately gave me another choice. And I had another choice in front of me of whether or not I'm just going to kind of, do this year and this is fine and blah, 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 or I'm going to take every single day. I'm going to take every single hour that's available to me, and I'm going to optimize this experience while I'm here, because you know what? This is never ever going to happen again. I was 26, 27 at the time. I knew I was getting a little bit older. I knew eventually I wanted a family and if I was ever going to really, really invest every drop into myself, not only as a musician, but as a person, then this was the time I was going to do it. And how that worked out was ultimately I developed a system of routines, and voila, here we are to upgrade my rituals. This system started kind of taking a look at my 24 hours and designing this perfect ideal day that I can try to come close to. And at the time, that was 7 hours of practicing my instrument, but that's what I was there to do. But besides that, that wasn't just all I did. I had a whole morning routine where I worked out and I, ate a healthy breakfast and meditated. And that was the most clear meditation that I can ever have in my life. I don't know if I'll ever be back in that place again, because when you spend your entire day, not only by yourself in a French-speaking country where you really can't understand what they're saying, a little bit because you learn a little bit, but so you're so insular, you're listening to podcasts and recordings, and you do everything you want that day, your mind is completely clear. So at the end of the day, I come back and I start reforming my life. And what this whole experience taught me, from being completely out of control to being completely in control, is one very important thing. We are a byproduct of what we do every single day. Not what we wish, not what we want, what we do. So why don't we do as much we can do? Why don't we design our schedule where we are able to implement beautiful routines in our lives that propel us forward instead of keep us stuck in this rut? Well, I believe because of the fact that in order to get there, we have to go through these 3 steps and these 3 processes. You have to wake up to the fact that this is a real problem. You are stuck in a rut, and that's okay. You can't keep avoiding things. You can't keep avoiding reality. It's okay to be stuck in a rut. You have to clean up. You have to clean up emotionally, and you have to let go of all these limiting beliefs, all of these things that keep us stuck where we are, so we can ultimately move forward. And then finally, number 3, change it up. We have to change up our environment. We don't have to go to Belgium. We have to change up environment. That may be a weekend retreat. That may be a month off. That may be a job change. That may be moving to a new house. Something that gets you out of your environment and your day-to-day schedule. One thing I did when I was in Belgium was every weekend, or at least every Sunday, I don't believe it's Saturday, but every Sunday the conservatory was closed, actually. Very European style of doing things. Couldn't really practice that much because I was in an apartment, and I got to just be by myself. I got to be in nature. I, got to walk around some really nice landscapes, and what that did was gave me time to think and plan. And it was literally, I thought of it as, the Batman Ra's al Ghul 10-year period, right, where he's just training. That's what I looked at this time, and especially on the weekends, where I got to just sit, take a notebook, and just, walk and plan and do all these exercises and processes to take my life and say, okay, here's everything I want. Here's everything I want, and here's everything I'm gonna get. So that, my friends, is how to get out of a rut. That's how I did it, and I believe that would help you get out of your own rut. If you like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Of course, hitting the like if you like it, and hitting the bell notification to be notified of the next video. And if you're looking to figure out a little bit more about my process of routines, about my process of what ritual design actually is and the system that I've created, you can check out this video right here.